Listening styles. We're going to look at action-oriented, time-oriented listeners, people-oriented listeners, and content-oriented listeners. The first one we're going to look at is the action-oriented listener. This might be a boss. What they're looking for is brief, to-the-point information that's accurate. They're going to use the information to make a decision, and then when somebody is disorganized or not really thinking through their information or is taking them a long time to get to the point, they're going to get impatient. I think when we're looking at these different listening styles, I think that there might be different times when you might employ different techniques. So I think I probably use every one of these. It just depends on the circumstances. I think people might have a primary one of a primary style maybe of how they listen. And then I think you could also change depending on what you've had to do over time. But again, I think that we probably shift these as we go. So if I'm going to be action oriented, maybe I'm on a time deadline and I just need to get the information I need to get and move on. Since I deal mostly with people, this is probably not my primary one as far as how I'm doing things, but if I'm not in a role where I'm supposed to be listening, I have a tendency to be rather action oriented. I just want to get to the point and move on with my day. Again, yeah, situational. Time. If somebody's focused on time, they're going to probably let you know in advance how long they have. So this conversation, I'm going to allocate this much time to, and don't ask me for more time than that. An idea is going to be brief, concise, stick to the schedule, make sure things are getting taken care of. They might look at their watch to see what time it is, say, hey, I only have so much time to get this taken care of, so let's move on with the information. So there's a time. I think there's probably some crossover between an action-oriented and a time-oriented person. So there could be an overlap a little bit with that. People-oriented. So a person that's doing people-oriented listening, they're going to look at commonalities. So oftentimes, if you want someone to share more information with you, what you can do is you can actually disclose a little bit of information about yourself. You don't spend a lot of time talking about yourself, but you might give them enough information to let them know, hey, I'm giving a little bit to you. And then oftentimes they'll say, okay, well, you've given some information to me, so I will share some of my information with you. There's a concern for emotion here, so really focusing on what's happening with that person, showing empathy, and this person is considered to have a high communication competence. This is probably where I spend most of my time, just because I work with people. So I'm going to hang out here just because I need to make sure that the people that I'm working with feel like they're being heard. Now, do I always do that? Probably not. Probably not. There's probably times when maybe I need to get to my next class. I'm not going to necessarily be focusing as much on people, or if I'm working with clients and I get another client coming, I might start shifting my communication or my listening in order to make sure that I'm creating the ending with that one so I can work with the next person. But when I'm with a person one-on-one, I really work to be people oriented and really listen to the person's feelings and emotions. Like I said, I may not always I may not always succeed, but I really work on that. And then the content oriented, so intellectual stimulation, complex information. You're going to be evaluating facts and forming an opinion based on the presentation. I love to learn. I'm always putting myself into situations where I'm continuing my education, I am taking classes, I'm listening to books. I love audiobooks. They're really fun for me to listen to when I'm taking the bus back and forth. So I really spend a lot of time hanging out with content and getting someone to help me think about things in a different way. So that's This is probably a place I like to spend a lot of my time when I am not interacting with people and I'm just hanging out by myself. So hopefully that gives you some idea. Again, the 4 ones we talked about were action-oriented, time-oriented, people-oriented, and content-oriented.